also going to start a timer so I don't bore you too long. So this poem is, again, a sort of newer work. I'm working on a group of poems called Group of Seven. So this poem is called Franklin Carmichael. It is time for a Canadian poem, for a poem that will express what it means to be Canadian. We all felt that the time is coming, and now the time has come. As you read the Canadian poem, think of how it feels to be Canadian. How does it feel? It was hard to express before we had the poem. Now the poem has come to us. Now the poem has come across the prairies with its teeth. Its teeth are ready for us. To us comes the Canadian poem. So that's Franklin Carmichael. This other newer poem is called That's What She Said. No thanks, I'm good. My mother's coming. Wow, that is really hard. You really think you can do that all day long? Well, you always left me satisfied and smiling. Why did it get so big? Does the skin look red and swollen? You should put butter on it. You already did me. Put this matter to bed. I can't stay on top of you 24/7. They taste so good in my mouth. I want you to think of it long and hard. Can you make that straighter? Let's just blow this party off. Why is this so hard? I need 2 men on this. Dipped in the water so it'll slide down your gullet more easily. Can you make it straighter? And up comes the toolbar. That's what I said. I say things like that to lighten the tension when things get hard. Come again? And you were directly under her the entire time? Well, you were hardly my first. Force it in as deep as you can. It was easy to get in, but impossible to rise up. Hold it in your mouth if you can't swallow. It's going to be tight. It squeaks when you bang it. Don't make it harder than it needs to be. Dwight, get out of my nook. Oscar, would you reach over and touch his thing? This is huge. I can't force you to go down, but I can entice you. Instead, you screwed me. Put it away. You need to get back on top, get it up. That's what. The trick is to do it face down with the post in your mouth. Michael, you're making this harder than it has to be. So those are all the lines that preface, the phrase, that's what she said in the office. I'm just going to read a little bit from each of these books. The first book I published, Ex Machina, is sort of an odd beast. I've been doing these sort of weird, I guess you'd say, things that I sort of view as experimental fiction, but in many respects they just sort of fail to be whatever it is I think they are, and then they become poetry. So this is, my science fiction novel with no characters or plot. It's called Ex Machina. So I'm just gonna, it's structured like a choose your own adventure book, but again, it has no characters or plot. So you're just sort of, moving from line to line. Each line has a number. You sort of connect the number to jump to another poem. And if you read the book in this way, in this sort of according to the choose your own adventure structure, you will actually never finish reading the book, and you will also never read the entire book. So I'm just going to read the preface and a few sort of excerpts from this book here. This book is a machine. It will use you to generate poems. There are numbers. If you follow these numbers, then the book may follow you. Otherwise, the book will continue without you. 2. The book that you read seeking something. The book that you write to discover. The book for which they burn you. The book the bacteria write in your bones. 15. Physiologically, man in the normal use of technology is perpetually modified by it, and in turn finds every new ways of modifying his technology. Man becomes, as it were, the sex organs of the machine world, as the bee of the plant world, enabling it to fecundate and to evolve ever new forms. The machine world reciprocates man's love by expediting his wishes and desires, namely in providing him with wealth. Steal and you're warming sex. 42. Order as arbitrary, choice governed by paranoia. The option that disturbs most thoroughly, sewing sheet metal over your eyes. 53. This is my sort of lyric poem from the book. Always wanting to know and to delve deeper. A voracious reader, consuming all found. a terrible strain, coughing out questions, incapable of satisfaction. How mother would always cry, moving further away to be shrouded in vellum behind the screen menu when I was a child. 28. In the garden of forking paths, you appear always to move forward, but in fact, it is the garden that moves. So just some excerpts from Ex Machina, my failed science fiction novel. I then, started to move on to the theater. And I produced a book that plays that, as Sarah was saying, are possible to produce. They're not technically impossible in some respects. Some of them, you wouldn't want to produce for ethical reasons. Others, physically, you cannot, again, produce. Others will become, in fact, routine productions as time marches on. So, my favorite review of this book was just a very glowing one that said, although the author liked the book, if there's a Clockfire festival, don't go. So here's the title poem, Clockfire. A spotlight appears on stage to light a large, ornate grandfather clock. The clock displays the correct time and is in perfect working order. The actors sneak behind the audience and set the theater on fire. Excellent. This one's called If the Sun Still Burns. The lights rise, a single spotlight targeting the audience. A second spotlight fires to life. A third joins these. Then a fourth. A fifth spotlight turns on, and a sixth, and a seventh. All of these lights are aimed out into the audience. An eighth light turns on. Take great care in planning this piece to ensure sufficient electrical power. There must be no outages, flickering lights, or other interruptions. A ninth. You might supply the theater with its own generators, capable of producing an astounding amount of power. A tenth. Of course, the light should be bright and unending. Under no circumstances may the performance be stopped for lack of equipment or energy. An 11th turns on, then a 12th, a 13th. The performance continues in this manner, light added to light. If the sun still burns, add the sun. The audience will complain. It is too hot, too bright. They have not paid to be blinded. They are wrong. They must be driven from the theater or offer it their eyes. I love when people laugh at these poems. Sometimes, people who've read this book say, many of the poems are very horrific. One reviewer mentioned that it kind of reads like a bunch of horror film treatments for films, that would maybe last 10 seconds and involve everyone being dead. But people laugh at them, and I think they're quite funny in some instances anyway. And my friend was living in Oz, who was here tonight, once said, when she read it at home, she was terrified, but when she heard me read it, she thought it was funny. And to me, that was like the perfect compliment. This poem, it's a very short one, is called To Forget. And what would you like to forget? It is played out before you again and again, until you beg for it to stop. But rather than it stopping, you are brought up onto the stage. This is my grandmother's favorite poem. The Mirrored Stage. Favorite poem of mine, I should just point that out. The lights dim, then come up as a curtain rises to reveal an empty stage, its back wall a giant mirror. The audience looks out upon its own reflection, enraged. What pompousness. Betrayed, they file out. A joke has been played on them, an artless joke. Some have looked forward to this play all week. They mutter and complain. They play a failure, a ham-fisted attempt at profundity. They will warn others and demand a refund. Finally, the theater is empty, silence, then an eruption of applause. Although the audience has left, the reflections remain. The reflections rise, cheering, delighted, and finally free. This last play from Clockfire is a very short one again. It's called Deus Ex Machina. Things have gone too wrong for too long. It is time for the god to climb down from the machine. Since Montreal, and Quebec, I guess, has been having its fair share of sort of political strife, as many places in the country have lately, it seems. I thought I might end with reading a longer poem from my book, The Politics of Knives. This is my newest poetry book. And the title sequence is a poem called The Politics of Knives. So I've been thinking about politics lately, of course, when I wrote this. In The Politics of Knives, if you were looking at this page, you would see that certain sections of the text have just been excised, big black bars. So I'm just going to pause where there's black bars. Not a small decision, because those you choose should last a lifetime. They must be and always ready, as if for some backroom surgery, providing economical, indispensable solutions to, proud to be the first choice of police and military professionals worldwide. Once the transfer is complete, you can enjoy the same stars employ. Covers his head. Everyone warranted against defects in material and workmanship. 23 in all fury, but then sullen and robed in blood. It is not recommended due to the risk of the blades snapping. A free trial is available for a limited time, after which your message will be returned to you in its true inverted form. Grasp the sheath well as you, only in broken mirrors have the goals of assassins been realized. Every shard its own currency, it is easy with the quality stone. The first, focused on those who carry and use them, acts often contrary to. And so this poem, its contents, and the cuts are provided on an as-is basis. No of any kind are explicit or implied. The lights dim, then come up as a curtain rises to reveal an empty stage, its back wall a giant mirror. The audience looks out upon its own reflection, enraged. What pompousness. Betrayed, they file out. A joke has been played on them, an artless joke. Some have looked forward to this play all the week. They mutter and complain. The play of failure, a ham-fisted attempt at profundity. They will warn others and demand a refund. Finally, the theater is empty, silence, then an eruption of applause. Although the audience has left, the reflections remain. The reflections rise, cheering, delighted, and finally free. This last play from Clockfire is a very short one again. It's called Deus Ex Machina. Things have gone too wrong for too long. It is time for the god to climb down from the machine. Since Montreal, and Quebec, I guess, has been having its fair share of sort of political strife, as many places in the country have lately, it seems. I thought I might end with reading a longer poem from my book, The Politics of Knives. This is my newest poetry book. And the title sequence is a poem called The Politics of Knives. So I've been thinking about politics lately, of course, when I wrote this. In The Politics of Knives, if you were looking at this page, you would see that certain sections of the text have just been excised, big black bars. So I'm just going to pause where there's black bars. Not a small decision, because those you choose should last a lifetime. They must be and always ready, as if for some backroom surgery, providing economical, indispensable solutions to, proud to be the first choice of police and military professionals worldwide. Once the transfer is complete, you can enjoy the same stars employ. Covers his head. Everyone warranted against defects in material and workmanship. 23 in all fury, but then sullen and robed in blood. It is not recommended due to the risk of the blades snapping. A free trial is available for a limited time, after which your message will be returned to you in its true inverted form. Grasp the sheath well as you, only in broken mirrors have the goals of assassins been realized. Every shard its own currency, it is easy with the quality stone. The first, focused on those who carry and use them, acts often contrary to. And so this poem, its contents, and the cuts are provided on an as-is basis. No of any kind are explicit or implied. 638 attempts made on exploding seashells considered, and mollusks purchased before the idea set adrift, your tax dollars at work. More for your money with a set that will last a lifetime, tolerates no imitations. More than justifies their expense, and in any case, what choice do you have? There's something to be said for, and if you need to cut through, or a car door, don't laugh, you will one day need to. Things you never considered, but those things step into your footprints with great stealth. These are perfect for me. They have restored my ability to work. Although of limited use on normal missions, they'd be carried only by someone willing to carry them. Trim the fat from the steak with the leanest cuts possible. At heart, it is a matter of personal preference, yet a duty for people of faith. It is the new Roman Empire, and will also fall. They demanded the release of members of, but releasing those members was not an option. After the body was discovered, all were sentenced to, but the sentence terminated with, if the company you work for is taken over, this could be the key to your survival. That's one way you lose your audience, yelling, as always, to tyrants. 1,000 eyes flashed before, manufactured without, which makes them more hygienic, using only the available light. The special one, which resonates with you, out of the hundreds you might see on the market. At dinner with his parents, there was a knife she did not know how to use. Carving, you botched the bird, a sure sign you need a new set, but if there's a code name, then what's the code name? Put them to the test. If there is, then what, and could there be errors? Binary thinking leads to broken models. A slight separation on this wire-fine edge, she's waving it around that made them all afraid. Did they take home afterward, there let them fall clattering to the ground, washed in warm soapy water or an antibacterial bath, stamp thinner and lighter than forged, maiden, now and in the last of the empire's light, and it made them all afraid. Many legends and many duties. Was poisoned, or was, after that death, made to die a second death, to prove to himself he was dead. Waking to the dream, to the angel known as God's assassin, and moving strong now, because it comes calling our names. Silver quick. Drew the pistol and fired point blank, but the bullet failed to discharge, so drew the second pistol and fired point blank, but the bullet failed to discharge, and yet both times the gunshot was heard. An extended warranty provides peace of mind, and when over skin feather light blends to bleed. And doomed to repeat. What to do when the sheep elect wolves. Thank you.